speaks the other truth. Tonight will be a short show. Let's call it Ramona's Rant. And the reason why that is because there's some things that's going on out there that is really getting under my skin. And while they have us distracted with all this other mess, political, et cetera, have you noticed anything peculiar when you go into the stores these days? Yeah, you notice that everything is about $2 higher than it was about 2 weeks ago. Now, here's the thing. I'm really upset about that because there's no reason for food prices to be going up and that fake water that they sell going up. And I'm basically talking about Walmart uh, and of course the little mom and pop grocery stores that we have around here. But I asked myself, what's really going on? Because now I'm looking at gas and that's going up too. Now, the excuse that the government is giving is that they can't unload the ships. The ships are sitting out in port. The last I heard in California, sitting out there, haven't been unloaded. Food is rotty. And is that okay? That's not okay. And what do they want to say? Because people don't want to work? That is a freaking lie. I'm so sick of all this deceit and mess that's going on around us. And nobody's actually out there complaining about it. You're talking about masks in school and stuff like that. Come on now. What about the food that you need to serve your kids? How is that going for you? Why aren't the ships being unloaded? Because they do have people that will work and unload them. It's a lie. It's a lie. Or better yet, pay them a good wage if, as they say, they're not willing to work because they want to sit at home, which is another lie. Nobody in their right mind, unless they were making that minimum wage, $7 an hour here in Texas, that they can't live on, even if they're working 40 hours a week, when average rent for a one bedroom is $1,200 a month. And you have to ask yourself, why is it so hard for them to make it where the minimum wage in this country is $15 an hour? Because that's not going to let anybody live like a king. That's going to let them live and survive decently on the bare minimums. Because now they can't even get the bare minimums. I haven't made $7 an hour since I was in high school, and that was a rarity at that time. That was in the 70s. Here we are, 2021. It's been 60 years since I graduated high school. And people are just barely making over what the minimum wage was around then when everything has skyrocketed. Because check this out. The minimum wage that I was making back when I first got my very first job, rents were $75 a month. Gas was 25 cents a gallon. Come on, people. Let's get our focus where it needs to be. Because they have us distracted. Are you really telling me that it is more beneficial to let tons and tons of food rot in ships than it is to get those items off of those ships, no matter what you need to pay, and put them in the stores. It's a trick, people. It's a trick. And we need to be aware of what's going on. I am so sick and tired of all this gaslighting that is going on today. I just wish everybody would take a breath, stand back, open their eyes, and question what what is the real purpose of all of this chaos? Is it to keep us distracted from what they're doing that we know not of? So I suggest that people get pens, paper, emails, get on their phones, call their representatives, and tell them to do something and do something now. Instead of, going to these school board meetings and complaining about what they're teaching in school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because guess what? They've been teaching wrong things forever, and it's not going to change until we start having the people actually work for us, which they're not doing. You got to wake up. You got to wake up. Now let's go to another thing. This pandemic thing and rise. I've said it once and I'll say it again. They don't know. What you think you know, what they think they know, is not it. And why is it so hard for them to say, we just don't know? We're doing the best we can. But in the meantime, people are still dying and getting sick and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And here we are going into the third year. We finished 2 years because I believe this started in October, actually before October, the year before last. They just didn't know. But we're going into a third year. Now, during my research, what I've found is that there's some countries that only have like 1,000 cases ever. Truly, do your research. 1,000, 1,800 cases, I think is the lowest number. That should be us, but it's not. And we need to ask why. We don't need to be concentrating on masks or vaccines or whatever. We need to ask them, why is this not going away? Because now we're getting into flu season for all you flu sufferers out there. Thank God I'm not one. But you need to demand answers, not fight against what they're trying to put out, because I do believe they're doing the best they can if you go along those lines. If you go along the lines of some conspiracy thing going on, that's not it, because there's just no rhyme or reason to it. It's not logical. There is no expert out there that can tell you exactly what the answer or solution to this thing is, because they don't know. So they're winging it. And I'm all right with that. Just say, I don't know, and we're winging it. We're trying this, we're trying that, and see if they work, because that's all you can do. But if there is one human being that thinks they have the answers to it all, then by all means step right up. Because evidently you have the answers to the secrets of the universe, and I'd like to know those for sure. It's a scary situation. Some people are dying, some people are surviving. But here's the thing, even out of those that survive, we don't know what the long-term effects are. Okay, thirdly, I want to explain something to people. And you don't have to take my word for it. All you have to do is go and do your research. Start reading literature that was written in the 1600s or before about the racism in this country. This is a new thing that perpetuated itself all around the world wherever there was colonialism. Because as of I think it was 1662, even in this country, there was no thing as white supremacy or anything else like that. It just didn't exist because it was all ethnicities. There were slaves in this country that were white, Asian, and black. And they all had the same opportunities. They could buy their freedom, et cetera, et cetera. They could vote once they paid off their debt because they were indentured. And then people started complaining about that. And that's when, in the end of the 1600s, when this white thing came about, they needed something to separate themselves and change the course that this country was going in, because too many were buying their freedoms, taking offices, and voting, which was upsetting the agenda at the time. And it goes deeper than that. But that's the basic quick facts for you. Okay. So from that point on, there was other things going on at that time. But believe you me, there was nothing known as a white person before the middle 1600s. And it started in this country with laws being made because what was in effect was not conducive to the agenda of those that were coming into this country. And so, thus, the start of slavery of the Africans was started, and the term white man was invented. And go ahead, do the research yourself. Take a look at some of the books that were written in the 1600s, and you'll see. And check out the laws that were passed in this country in the 1600s, and you will understand. So, having said that, we need to stop all this divisiveness because, as I've tried to tell you before, all of you out there that think that you are superior to the next person, it's okay to find out that you've been mistaken. And that's all people are trying to get across to you, that you have been used as a tool. In fact, besides gunpowder and religion, the two biggest weapons available to man that was used, the worst enemy came about in the brainwashing of this country with motion pictures. Because the ideas that you have been indoctrinated in have all come from bad history books, the rewriting of history, and the propaganda that you've seen on the movie screen. And you need to think about that and check it out and verify the information that you've been told instead of out there in the streets rioting, wanting civil war, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because we have all been used as tools. And now you're finding out the biggest tool of all has been the citizens of this country against other citizens of this country. Which brings me to my last point. The 1% is the 1% because we allowed them to be. We made the billionaires and we keep them rich because we consume their products. We make their products. And yet we're not benefiting financially from it because they are paying us slave wages so that they can put huge profits in their pockets. Now, granted, there are some people that through life circumstances would be considered poor in this country. But the middle class that is steadily shrinking is a result of the slave wages that you are working for while the governments keep increasing the cost of living in this country. So much so that you cannot afford to maintain a middle class lifestyle. So out of all these things that I've mentioned, I think it's time that we stand up as a society in the United States of America. And those people that we put in office who are now doing their best, and make no mistake about it, they got a glimpse of how far people are willing to go for bullshit, believing in it. And they got a glimpse of that. And they realized that they could actually stay in power because you don't have enough sense to get those people out that are not working for you, which is what they should be in there doing. Because it's more of us than there are of those big corporations that's putting all that money into their pockets and working their agenda for the corporations. And you're buying into it. You need to stop and ask yourself, why am I poor? Why am I struggling? And it is not because some immigrant has come and taken your job. That's a mind bender. That's a mind game. It's because that is what their agenda is. Democrats, Republicans, whatever. Because in order to get up in that office, to campaign, they need big money. And in getting that big money, they incur debts. You scratch my back, I scratch yours, but nobody's scratching our backs. And you need to stop and think about that. Because if you're like me, you're getting really sick and tired of this. You're tired of the chaos. You're tired of the gaslighting. You're tired of being lied to. You're tired of being led to believe one thing when it's actually the other. There's no reason to feel helpless because the power lies in the people. And I don't mean with guns. We don't need guns. We need to vote those out of office that aren't doing us any good. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green, um, progressive, if they're not doing their job, and if by having them in there, your quality of life has not increased, get them out and try the next person and keep doing that. When they see that nothing is set in stone, perhaps they will start doing their job. I don't know. That's just some food for thoughts, and it's been on my mind for a while. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section and hit that like button. Y'all have a good Saturday evening. Until next week, when spooky season starts and the Halloween shows begin, um, God bless and take care. And take me home, Daryl.